to just see and make sure that we're actually live.
Okay.
So hang on.
So any early birds will, hello.
Exactly. Hi. So are we live over there on Zell?
I'll look at that right now.
Refresh.
Yeah. Yes.
Bolster my computer with a little Chronicles of Narnia and the Atlas of Human Anatomy.
Excellent. Okay, I'm sending. I think I'm gonna try and re-invite Summer. Hang on.
Ooh, look at your race number wall.
All right, let's see.
Are you going to Boston this year?
I am. I'm running.
Yeah.
No, I'm so excited. Am I gonna see you?
No, I'm not. The Shorty Awards are that day.
Oh, that's
So I'm going
exciting.
to go to the Shorty Awards in New York.
Oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Just grabbing
I've gone the last 2 years, so it's fun.
Yeah, well, I'm from Boston, so that's my home course.
Yeah. You came from there recently, right?
Yeah, so I've only been in Emmaus for 8 months.
Mm.
And
Which is so far.
Well, and I missed the worst winter in the history of Boston, so that was nice.
That's good.
So I just re-invited Summer.
Okay.
We'll see. Just resent. Check your Hangout invites. I love technology, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
When it works wonderfully, and when it doesn't work, it does not work. All right, let's see what she says here.
I'm going to make sure that my Dropbox is off. Ooh. Okay, I don't need to do that. Okay. Okay.
All right. Okay. I've got. Hang on. I'm talking Summer through on email. So you click the link, and then I found no email and went to that Hangout.
So this just live streams right on the Zelle website, right?
Right, it does, and we can edit it down, and it goes on YouTube after that.
That's so cool.
Google Plus page, and you will see a chat with Lauren and I. Okay. Hopefully we'll have her in a second. Let's see.
Is the volume, you're not getting any weird sound from me or anything, right?
No, you sound great.
Okay.
Okay. All right, let's check. Okay, well, while we're waiting, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you have any music you like to run to, or do you never run with music? Because I'm one of those people who almost never runs with music, and when people ask me that question, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. It's kind of sporadic for me. I prefer people, but you can't always have people. And then when I'm by myself, it's sort of most of the time I'm okay with no music.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, sometimes if it wasn't for music, I wouldn't get out of the house.
I hear you.
I would just get so tired. So I like Alt J a lot.
Huh?
Kind of nothing along that vein, but anything women's folky, like old or new.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's funny when people ask me that. We started creating playlists on Zelle, and it's great music, but I keep thinking like, gee, I should really listen to these more often when I'm running. I've only done them twice or so.
Yeah, the key is just the technology can't be cumbersome or it's not fun, you know? So
Exactly.
it's like, where are you putting your phone? Do you have a headphone cord bobbing around?
Right.
Like, my husband introduced me to the Jaybird headphones, and they're Bluetooth, and they stay in your ears, and they have really good sound. And he always works out with music, like 100% of the time.
Oh, wow.
Once I started using those, I was like, oh, I get it. It's actually not a giant pain in the butt to listen to music. So, remove some of those barriers. Once I get a new iPhone 6, though, one day I don't know where it's going to go. Like, that thing is a beast. Like, what pocket do you put it in?
I know, it's so huge.
Am I going back to the armband?
Right, and the armbands would be like halfway down your arm.
Yeah, we need a thigh band.
That's funny. All right, let's see where Summer is. Because I think we're just going to get started if she doesn't show up in 1 second.
I have 5:58. I don't know about you.
Okay.
Is she responding to her cell messages or cell texts or anything?
I'm emailing her, yeah.
Oh. We've had Scott Douglas here from Runner's World today.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, he's a cool guy.
He does our newswire.
He's on the. Oh, I think I heard something happening.
Hopefully. She should be able to grab it. I was trying to explain you have to go to the quote marks and pull the drop down in order to accept my invite. So.
Oh.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started and see if Summer can pop in here. So I wanted to thank you for joining me. I know it's a crazy time of day, and you have a busy training schedule and work-life balance and everything that I'm dealing with. So thank you.
Of course.
And so the reason that we're talking to you is, you're one of the race ambassadors, along with Summer Sanders, for the Magnificent Mile Chicago's Women's Half Marathon and 5K, and that's in September, on September 6th. And the race itself is expecting 10,000 runners, most of whom are obviously women. And so that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. Obviously, hi, Summer, there you are.
There I am. Don't you love technology?
I do. I'm saying I love it when it works, and I really don't like it when it doesn't work. So.
Literally 20% of the time it works for me. I think there's something about me and technology, even when I'm near a computer. I was at my doctor's office the other day, and all of a sudden her computer stopped working, and it's like, it's because I'm there. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no. So we were just saying how you and Lauren are race ambassadors for that Magnificent Mile half marathon and 5K in September on the 6th, which is awesome. And so I really wanted to talk to you about, where you think the sport of women's running is and why women's races are, still important. Because back when I started, my very first half marathon, I have a soft spot for it. It was called All Women and One Lucky Guy. And that's literally what it was. It was a bunch of women and then a lottery for one guy that got to run. So So tell me about how you think the landscape has changed. I mean, both of you are obviously powerhouses. So, what's your perspective on that?
Lauren, I'll let you start because you're the runner of the group.
You're a runner.
Yeah, runner.
By the way, it's nice to meet you.
It's so nice to meet you. I just have to say, Lauren, you are amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Not just because you're running, but you're so clever. You are so funny. I read your writing and I feel like I know you. I feel like you're my best friend. I feel like I'm laughing with you. So you are just like smart and talented and awesome. And so
thank you.
So
now
it's worth you take that and have a great dinner tonight.
Okay. Well, I have a lot of respect for you as well, obviously, but I have your cover of Runner's World up in my room, so it's really cool to do this with another female athlete, a Stanford alum. It's a great opportunity, and on a women's dedicated running website. So thanks for hosting, and to just take a crack at your question. Obviously, women's running has just come so far. It might be the best sport, the sport that's made the most progress, a leader for change of all the sports. I'd say from the participatory numbers being higher than men overall, to having opportunities to race and compete side by side with men, which is so unique in our sport, to the professional level where our sports structure is organized in a way where women and men almost always have equal opportunity in prize money, probably because we race in the same venue at the same time. It's really difficult to discriminate without it just being in your face. So it has forced equality in some ways. And I think that we've had now decades of track meets and road races where kids are growing up, standing on the sidelines, watching women use their bodies in powerful ways. Even if they originally bought the ticket to watch guys, they get to see women doing it. And so it's really changing the way kids grow up thinking about women. So I'm really proud to be a runner. I'm proud to be part of the movement for change, and we aren't there completely. So I do think that there's always room for change, and I see the two biggest areas from a recreational standpoint. I think there's still a lot of hesitancy in a lot of the women that I meet to accept the competitive side of themselves. There's a difference between participation and competition, and a pretty hard line for some people, and they don't identify, they're afraid of what it means to be competitive. And then there's also kind of some of the people that are really competitive that don't have total respect necessarily for the other side of it, the joy, the participation, the just getting out there. So I think that we can do a better job of connecting those two worlds between professional and recreational and supporting each other better, fangirling each other. And then the other area for improvement that we really need to make on the professional level is women's contracts with most of their sponsors view pregnancy as a medical disability, and I know this isn't unique to running, but we don't have maternity protection, we don't have maternity leave. It's really at the mercy of your sponsor's goodwill to say they'll support you through that. And it's a complicated issue. You can't physically do your job at an elite level when you're donating your body to making a kid, but you can contribute to the sport in other ways, and it does require creativity. And being a part of Wazal has been really eye-opening for me in that we've experimented with that. When I signed with them in 2012, I was pregnant, and I think we did a successful job creating an alternative model. And I would love to see that carry over across, just become a norm in the industry to support women athletes while they're pregnant.
Right. And Summer, what about you? So, swimming compared to running, I feel like is not that different. But in terms of on a sport level, what's the makeup seem like to you in terms of participation and kind of that competitive edge and drive that Lauren was talking about?
Yeah, the difference between swimming and running is basically it just comes down to a tiny little equipment change between swim cap and goggles and running shoes, because really we can run in a Speedo, right? You see a lot of people doing that. At Stanford, I'm sure, Lauren, you saw the guys running through the quad in their Speedos. Did you ever see them?
Oh yeah, I also witnessed swimsuit on head day.
Yes, I'm so sorry that you ever witnessed that. It's something that's very difficult to shake from your memory once you do. But anyhow, yeah, the sports are very similar, I have to say, on many levels. And I'll share just a quick bit about like why I love running so much. I started running at Stanford the moment I hung up my swimsuit. Lauren knows this well, but Stanford is just beautiful, and we're biased. We love our school, but we also love the environment that was our school, which was also very challenging at times because you had to choose between being outside in the gorgeous environment and going inside and studying. So I would run Campus Loop, which was about 4 miles. I would run up to the dish with my girlfriends, and for me, it was just a departure from the normal, which was your head in the water and you don't get to have conversation. So when I got to run, I was chatty Cathy and no one could get mad at me. So it was like, venting. It was like my therapy session and my workout all in one, which was just glorious when you're in your early 20s and you're trying to figure yourself out. So for me, I loved it. I loved the fact that I got to feel myself sweat. That was like a phenomenon. You're in the water, you're sweating, but you're just always wet. You don't have no idea how much you've just sweated throughout your workout. So those two things made me really fall in love with it. And then the third one was when I started working, and I worked for the NBA, and I was so lucky that I got to, travel to all these great running cities like DC and Boston, and even here in Utah and LA. So I really got to see my environment at my own pace, which was the pace of my running shoes. I got to find my coffee joint. I got to find my bagel joint. I got to walk and enjoy the sunrise or the sunset or whatever I was into at the moment. And that was really different for me, and yet it was so needed in every stage of my life. So when you talk about the power of women runners right now, I think we are an incredibly powerful group. I'm 42. I am 100% a Title IX baby. I was born the year Title IX was written and signed. I got to go to school and compete in sports. I got a scholarship, so I grew up with sports and knowing sports and loving sports and feeling that sense of competitive fire. So I had babies, and then I became a mom, and I started working. That competitive fire doesn't go away. All of a sudden, I was going to the gym, and I'm looking at people, and I'm like, this is so great that you're working out, but what are you training for? And there's a really big difference between working out and training for something. And I genuinely love training for something. I love a challenge. Mm-hmm. I love being driven to that point of where you have hit the wall and you have to decide how tough you are. And talk about childbirth, right, Lauren? Yeah. You're driven to that point about 20,000 times. I think we all can agree to that. But it's like I live for that, and I love it. And so I consider myself, and I speak for a big portion of those women who are spending $50 to $100 to sign up for these races. I'm a social competitor. Mm-hmm. I love the social aspect of it, and I love crossing that finish line. And as much as we give these young youth sports a hard time for handing out medals for everything that they do, don't you dare take away my participatory medal in my races. Because when I cross that finish line, my neck is like literally a magnet to the medal. It's like, where's my medal? And I am running around trying to find it. I love the environment. I love why women are running. They all have a reason. They've either written it on their chest, or they've written it on their back, or they're wearing it in their tutu. And there's a purpose, and there's a passion, and they're healthy because of it, and they're happy. And I thrive in that environment. And so that's a big shift I've seen. My very first marathon was 1999 on a whim. And there was probably an eighth of the competitors in New York, the New York City Marathon, that there was when I ran it this last time in 2013. I don't have the stats, but I just noticed it. There was never a moment when I wasn't in a crowd of people throughout the entire course, and I don't remember feeling that way in 1999. And yet I enjoyed the crowd. It was awesome.
Yeah. So that's another interesting thing that I wanted to bring up. So the reasons why women run, and being an editor of the site, I've seen a lot of those various reasons. And one very interesting reason that I'm finding for those that aren't necessarily competitive, but even you both, give back to the running community and with the running community in very real and tangible ways, And this race actually, is going to benefit Girls on the Run as well as the American Cancer Society. And so a lot of women are running for charities and causes. So can you talk to me a little bit about, what are the various causes and charities you're all involved in, and, why you think, especially running, is such a good fit? And like I'm running Boston, and I'm running it for a charity myself, and I just feel like it's so nice to do something good for yourself while you're also doing good for someone else. And I feel like that's a common thread.
Every time I race, I feel like I need to be a representative of my sport and of the professional side of the sport. And so it's not the same exactly as a charity. I also have charity affiliations, but that really drives me in my heart on the deepest level. I want to do that well. And I'm very aware of the power each of us has to contribute to the environment of a race. And that's one of the reasons women's only races are so special, because you can open up in a way in an environment of just women. At least I can, and I think that's why they're so successful. I think a lot of women feel this way, where you can just be completely yourself, and you can really kind of lift each other up in a different way. And I love the men in my life too, but I need my women-only experiences. And for charity specifically, because this is a women's-only race, I am running for Every Mother Counts, which is Christy Turlington Burns' charity supporting maternal health around the world, and trying to prevent very, very preventable deaths associated with childbirth for women. And she's doing really great work. And, you guys, I'm sure you've seen her stuff and all the races she's running on her own and raising money for. So this will be my first race for Every Mother Counts. It'll be my first time fundraising for a charity, rather than just kind of helping promote it through word of mouth. So it'll be a learning experience, and I know it'll be really rewarding. There'll be other women there running for the same cause too, which is special. So I'm looking forward to that.
I've picked out people who run for charities and run for purpose, and I find, again, I came from a sport where my face was in the water and I was staring at a black line for 4 hours a day. So any chance I get to chat it up and have a conversation while I'm working out, I take advantage of it. And so I thrive on that. And so you mentioned 2 charities for the Mag Mile, and I'm actually associated with them. My daughter just started Girls on the Run 3 weeks ago at her elementary school, and I've been a supporter of Girls on the Run for a while. And then every year at our school, we raise money for the American Heart Association through Jump Rope for Heart. So our school last year was the national winner, and this year we raised $38,000 by kids either shooting hoops or jumping rope for the American Heart Association. And in turn, they learned about their heart. I mean, my son would come home every day telling me something new about what the heart does, which I thought was just adorable for a 7-year-old and a first grader and a boy. But for me, yes, every step usually means something, and it usually means training and time away from my family, and therefore it's a lesson for my family to learn why I'm doing it. And generally, my family usually knows why I do most of everything when it comes to charity. I've been working with Right to Play for almost 19 years. We bring sport and play to developing countries and children who've been affected by war. We're basically the first in the field of sport for development. So if you can take a moment and imagine what your life would be like without any sport, without playgrounds, without jump ropes, without a ball, without running, really does build character. It really has taught all of us kind of who we are in a team setting, and failure and success, inclusion, conflict resolution, all that. So yes, I think that's a huge part of running, is fulfilling this need to give back and this purpose that we all sort of long for, more than just writing a check for one of these asks that comes in the mail, but to actually give your time and give your energy and sweat for something that you believe in is very powerful. And it's amazing how something like that can actually get you across the finish line, whether it's 5K, 10K, or 26.2.
Right.
And when you're really pushing your body to the edge, you're, at least for me, those are the moments when I feel most grateful for my health And so a lot of these charities that are health driven, it's the prime environment to be thinking about those things and raising awareness for those things. And also when people are racing, they're on a high, they're feeling good, everybody's loving on each other, and I think that's a really good time to be asking people questions about what causes are important to them, because you're more open to it and you're more, at least I think we should, continue making more and more of an effort to engage people before and after races about why they're running, because that's a great opportunity to learn, to learn about the needs of the world we don't see in our everyday life. Like, I had no idea that in a lot of countries a woman has to travel 5K to a marathon distance to get to the nearest hospital for labor. I mean, that was like mind-blowing when I learned that. And so then while you're running, you can never forget that. When you're running a race, like when I run the Mag Mile Half, I will be unable to forget the fact that someone right now is walking this far because they're having a medical emergency and they need to see a doctor, or they won't make it that far. And it's like, wow,
Right.
You can draw strength. I just really quickly, during the New York Marathon, I happened to be kind of like a third party listening to this conversation between these two gentlemen in front of me, and they were each running for somebody that they had lost, and the one gentleman had just lost his brother-in-law, and you could tell because the date was the day before his death date, and so this gentleman came up and said, "Who are you running for?" And they had this conversation, and basically the gentleman who asked said, "I'm running for my wife, who I lost however many years ago for cancer." And he said, "I hope today helps with your healing and it allows you a bit of closure." And it was like that moment right there was maybe mile 10 into 26.2, and I had tears rolling down my face. And I was like, that's when you realize as a runner who trains for an event like this, and if people think that you're selfish because you've chosen to train for something that requires so much time, you realize actually most of these people are quite selfless, that they're training and doing this for a purpose beyond themselves and for something else. And I don't know, I find that very special to be a part of.
I was just thinking, there's no way that conconversation probably would have happened on a subway between those dudes.
No. I don't think so.
Right. So now we have a couple of user questions that people wanted me to ask you. So I hope you don't mind, but our readers wanted some answers to some things. So let's start with the really easy one. A lot of people asked about what your favorite pre and post race meals are.
Well, a lot of my races are at night in track, so I have the whole day to worry about what I'm going to eat. And I've actually been out of the track circuit for a while, so I'm really freaking out about track season again, because the last thing you want is stomach problems. So in the morning, I usually have oatmeal and put some fixins in it, have a little bit of tart cherry juice or orange juice or something like that. Tart cherry juice is supposed to help with recovery in advance, so that's a good choice for people who want to jumpstart that. I usually have a sandwich, something safe, turkey sandwich, just something I've had like a million times in my life. Peanut butter and jelly is always a good call for me, and I definitely don't experiment with anything new the day of. If the race is in the morning, like a road race, then the night before, I just try to set like general rules that are easy to follow when you're not in your own home environment, because you can't always have total control over what you eat. So I just try to have usually chicken, fish, if I'm like salmon, if I'm in a place I trust. Those two things always have digested well for me. Rice or pasta or potato. I don't really usually eat bread the night before for some reason. It kind of makes me feel bloated and gross, but I definitely eat carbohydrate. And then cooked vegetables. I don't eat raw vegetables. So it's just, I don't know if it's a superstition, but I just want to make sure everything's like gonna go where it needs to go.
Yeah. It's so funny because I would say to people, you know what? It's probably the one night when you don't have to worry about eating your vegetables. Like you can totally skip your vegetables and most all fiber, and you're going to be just fine. Anyway, oh my gosh, I thought you were drinking a glass of wine. I'm like, yes, Lauren. If I was to give anybody advice, something that I think that people forget, because they really do think about their nutrition just the night before, and frankly, that's probably a little bit too late. in the game is to just remember the week before to hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. And so it's not just water, but it's quite a bit of water, and make sure you have like enough salt in your diet so that you can absorb all the water. But whenever you think, oh, I haven't had any water in a while, drink some water the week leading up to, because the last thing you want to do is the night before go, wow, I really didn't have any water this week. I was working a lot and, trying to get packed for this trip and blah, 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 blah. And then I think the more bland for any of your meals, the better. It's not the time to go out and get like your spicy lasagna at some swanky restaurant that's super rich and all that. I think you go with that's when you just ask the kitchen to be fairly plain and give me plain pasta or plain rice and, like you said, chicken. I don't have any normals. I had one of my best meals. One of my best races after having IHOP's pancakes, literally the largest stack ever. Of course, this was in my teens, people. But so yeah, I just think whatever. It's not the time to try something new. Let's put it that way. So keep it norm, keep it basic. But for people who are just starting out, don't stress about your nutrition too much. Just remember those facts. Mm-hmm. Basic, norm, and no need to eat your veggies, and you're going to be just fine.
It just reminded me, you can always tell when I have a race because the whole race week I'm carrying a water bottle around, totally neurotic. Just always have it in my hand, everywhere I'm going. And I wear running shoes with the most inappropriate outfits. Do not wear any shoe that's going to offend my foot in any way. I don't wear heels anyway. My PT basically got me off those when he was like, sure, you could wear heels sometimes. They're really terrible for you. They're the worst thing you could possibly do. It's like, would you do heroin sometimes? I was like, whoa.
Wow.
He was pretty hardcore, but I'm a professional athlete, so I really have no excuses with that stuff. But that's okay. There's really cute flats out there. But I will still just be wearing my running shoes race week.
Running shoes are really cute nowadays. I have these really cute green ones that are Boston commemorated, and I have gotten and they stand out. They are so bright and they are so green, and I have flippers for feet, so they stand out like Ronald McDonald shoes. But I've gotten more comments on those shoes than any heels that I've been in my life. So
are you sure
it's fine with your running shoes?
People are like, hey, nice shoes.
Yeah, right. Maybe I'm just taking it as a compliment, and really it's like, oh my God, this one's crazy.
Oh man. So the next question we had was about how do you deal with an injury and coming back to, the sport. And one of the interesting things I was thinking of, Summer, especially for you, when I'm injured, I hop in the pool. When I can't run, I swim. And so, I don't know I don't know what your recovery regimen is like, but, I was interested. That was an interesting question that people were asking about when you're injured. What do you do?
Yeah. Even when I can't swim, I swim. So I just had, I can sort of show you guys here. I just had major shoulder surgery. You can't really see it there. But anyway, I had my shoulder, my AC joint reconstructed. Oh, wow. I fell mountain biking. So it was on Thanksgiving Day. I had surgery the day after Christmas. And then I got my sling off on February 6th. You notice how I know all these dates so well? That sling those 6 weeks in the sling were probably the biggest test for my patience of all time. Mm-hmm. And so I couldn't run from Thanksgiving until I tried that week after I got my sling off, and it was maybe a couple of miles. The funny thing is I never was really jealous of people who were running. I would just look at them when they were running, and I would think, they've got to be so happy that they're out for a run right now. But coming back is the true test of your patience. It's not overdoing it. It's trusting that you want to be in it for the long haul. So you have to really, really know your body. It was much easier for me with this shoulder injury because It wasn't my legs, where I think, I've had shin splints before. I've had aches and pains and stuff like that, but knock on wood, I've been pretty lucky with lower extremity injuries. So this was the biggest one for me. And even still, Elizabeth, I was in the water.
Wow.
I mean, I am a swimmer. That's my element. Water is my element. I turn into a dolphin the moment I even see it. But even just laying in the water and being able to float, I just felt like my body was healing. So if I was to give any advice to any runner out there, doesn't mean that you have to turn into a triathlete. I'm not saying that you need to go that route. I just think that incorporating swimming into your running routine is going to make your running career much better, and it's going to make it much longer. Once you learn to swim properly, you use your core. It's just like yoga, except it's even more forgiving, and it builds a better base because you are using your cardiovascular system a bit more. Anybody who's tried to swim one lap in the pool knows what I'm talking about, because you're out of breath, like you haven't exercised for a year. It's so unforgiving. But for me, it's my original Zen. It's where I control my breathing. I'm in touch with my core. I'm lengthening. I'm strengthening, and I feel like my joints get a rest. So even when I can't swim, I kick, I float. There's something in there.
Right.
But knowing your body and being patient is key. And I know that there's no true definition of knowing your body, but when I say that, everybody is a trigger in their brain. They know their body. You know when you're getting sick. You know when you should sleep in. You know when you're not getting sick and you shouldn't sleep in, and you should be listening to your alarm clock and getting out of bed. So it's a tough one. It's probably the toughest test for most people is returning from injury.
Yeah, I definitely would second that. It's anything great has to have its crappy side, right? And running has a lot of awesome things. Its crappy side's probably going to be pretty crappy. And injuries, yeah, they're the worst, and they're inevitable. I don't know anyone that's never been hurt. In my earlier years, my first injury happened in 2004. It was the first Olympic trials. I had a legitimate chance of making the team, and I broke my foot about 6 weeks before, and it was like crazy because it really made me realize my entire identity had become wrapped into running and running performance. And I've heard this from people that aren't professionals too. It's anytime it's the high risk of allowing yourself to care a lot about a goal or a dream. So once you make that leap in running to, I'm doing this for fun and I'm doing this to work hard, to then here's something I really want to do, and I might not be able to do it. And then you get attached to it, and then you want to succeed at it. And so if an injury sidelines you during that really vulnerable time, it's devastating. And you just feel like something's been ripped away from you, this opportunity, all that hard work. You become scared sometimes to set other goals because you become so aware of how quickly they can disappear. A lot of times you can find yourself really blaming yourself that you should have caught it sooner. You could have, I've had all these thoughts obviously a million times, like could I have done differently? How can I avoid this in the future? And those questions are really important because there's always some things you can do better. But the thing that I learned through being injured, probably like the third or fourth time, is that sometimes it just happens and you can't find the reason, and you just gotta do the best you can to get healthy again and not overanalyze it and not beat yourself up about it. And the other part that I've learned from it is it has caused me to detach from the destination and the result just in general. So I've now learned a way to healthfully set goals and dreams and go after them fully and completely, but without an attachment to it doesn't have to happen for that to be a rewarding experience. The setting of the goals and stuff is something you do to put you on a certain path, right? To put you on a certain trajectory. And that type of life feels really purposeful, it gets you out of bed in the morning and it makes you feel like alive, and it makes you kind of assemble your support team, and people are engaging with you on your dream and your goal. And it's like a really, really cool thing in itself, no matter if it happens or not at the end. So now that's how I look at my career. I'm shooting for Rio in 2016. It might not happen. I currently have an Achilles problem that I'm rehabbing from. But it'll be okay. and I'm still going to go for it.
You know, I have to say, Lauren, you're totally right. And it's how you look at it, right? Like, how powerful is your mental state and what you believe in, right? And I don't know if you remember hearing of Richard Quick. I don't know if you were at Stanford when he was coaching then, but he was like a master in making you believe you could accomplish the impossible. I mean, even, you know, Tara Vanderveer, one of the winningest coaches in NCAA women's basketball history, learned a lot from Richard about winning, that idea of winning. And so anyway, I was gifted with him as a coach, and I hurt my shoulder, this same shoulder, so I had 2 surgeries done. One was for falling and mountain biking, and the other was for a labral tear that I had done about 11 months before Olympic trials in 1991, that would have been. And it was at the Stanford pool, the spring break, and we were in the pool, and we were sitting in inner tubes doing this relay race where we were paddling backwards like this. Oh, it was so fun until I heard something and I felt something, and I was like, that didn't feel so good. And then I swam with it for a few months. I'm like, God, that is a weird kind of pain. It's like a hurt pain, not just like it's a really hard set in the water kind of a pain. So I told Richard, and he took me into the doctor, and you know, Richard passed away a few years ago, so I don't know the truth about this, but I really think Richard was so smart in that he told Dr. Dillingham not to tell me what I'd really done in there. He just said to me, it's overuse, you just need to rest. So I did not use this arm for a month to a month and a half. And I was so frustrated the whole time thinking, I'm never going to make the team. This is going to be awful. My dreams are blown. I'm just kicking. I would use one arm. That arm would hurt. Then I would kick, and I would use fins. And I had blisters all over my feet because I was kicking too much with fins. And then finally it just clicked where I'm like, this all happened for a reason. My kick was really bad, and I needed to strengthen my legs. And in the end, you know what happened? I made the team, and I qualified. And then it was 23 years later when this nagging shoulder was bothering me that I realized that I had a torn labrum. And it took me back to that moment with Richard and how grateful I was that he made me believe that everything was going to be okay.
So we're going to have our last question, and then we'll wrap it up here. I really appreciate you ladies taking the time for this. And so my last question is, you know, if you had been told by anybody when you first got into this sport, any piece of advice you could give someone now, what would it be?
Oh, man. That's hard. I think tying into what Summer was saying, you know, just not to underestimate the power of your mind. And there's so much focus on quantitative measures and gadgets and mileage and sets and workouts and times and all this stuff. And all that stuff is important. You know, you gotta have those tools. But you have to leave a certain amount of space in your brain for what I call the mystery column, the unknowable, the who knows why it happens, it just happens, and leave yourself open to the possibility of excellence, always. And I think that, you know, if the window of opportunity opens, you'll be able to jump through it. And similarly, along the lines of mental stuff, I guess just the idea that you can reframe, you get to choose how you frame anything that happens to you, right? So similarly in a race, you're going to have negative thoughts. You're going to have moments you don't believe in yourself. You're going to have moments you don't want to get out for a run, like all that stuff. And I wish someone would have told me sooner that those things, you don't need to feel ashamed about those things. Those aren't signs of weakness. Those are signs of being a human. And no matter whether you're brand new running or you've been doing it for 50 years or you're a gold medalist, you have those exact same things happening in your brain. And the key is just learning over time how to acknowledge them and like shorten the period of time between the hurt and the frustration and when you found a way to kind of flip it into positivity or a new plan or whatever, and then consciously, you know, dwelling on that positive from then forward as much as you can. And it's mind games. It really is. But like, mind games are great. They're really.
I think you're right, Lauren. Your mind is so it's scary at times, right? If you really think about how powerful your thoughts are and your actions, your thoughts and your actions come together. I think, you know, if I was to look back, number one, I would say if someone could tell me how important sleep was, I would say sleep is your most important vitamin. And you have no idea about that until you're so sleep deprived and you see the effects of it. But if I could have slept more in my youth, and I'm sure I wanted to, but I was too busy training. But if I actually knew how important sleep was as a vitamin tool and a strengthening and rebuilding tool, I may have looked at it a bit differently. But I think you're right, Lauren. You know, my husband is an Olympic skier, and it's funny because he just brought up this point of how powerful your mind is at the most vulnerable moments, right? So right before you get on the blocks, right before you're ready to putt on the 18th green for the championship, you're at the line for your free throw. What are you thinking of in those moments or in that moment? And I think that's what you have to figure out. If I was to say to any young athlete out there, the quicker and the sooner you sort of understand and accept how you work, the better you're going to be as an athlete. There really is no coach that can know your brain and how you handle those moments. So you have to figure out the words that you need to say to yourself. It's not somebody else saying it to you. What words do you need to say to yourself? Are they simple words? Is it just 2 words? Well, maybe 3 words. You got it. Or is it, you know, actually going through the action? So whether you need to write that down, you need to put it on your bathroom mirror, you need to keep it in your golf bag, you need to keep it in your ski helmet, you need to have it by the side of the pool so you read it every single day. He said this to my niece the other day, and I thought it was just brilliant advice to break it down into its most simple form, because really, truly, that's what sport is. You got into it because it was fun and it was simple. Yeah. It was awesome and it was simple, and that's really what it should be. So if you can get back to that youthful state, even as a pro, I think you'll see why you do it, where the fun is and where the passion is. And then frankly, Lauren, that's why you and I are on the same call. Like, you're a pro and I'm the social competitor who's looking forward to her cold beverage at the end of her race with her girlfriends. We're not that much different. I mean, it's just this love for what we're doing. You're just a little bit better than I am at it. So
we'll have both of you handing me off something by the time I finish. You'll have showered, changed, gone back to the hotel, and and I'm totally okay with that. I love that.
You get to enjoy the course longer.
That's right, exactly. So I wanted to just quickly remind everybody that the registration is actually open right now for the Magnificent Mile Half and Festival, which is on September 6th. And one of the really cool features is there's a Friday night kind of girls' night out where there's going to be like a fashion show and food and all sorts of cool events. And the day before, people can have a shakeout run with you ladies, which I think is fantastic. And you know, I've talked to both of you quite a few times here, and you're just such wonderfully gracious, amazing athletes in your own right. And you know, so if anybody can get out there and join you for a shakeout run, I highly suggest they do that. So thank you so much again for letting me pick your brain. And if anybody wants any more information, they can go on, they can search the hashtag We Run Mag Mile, and you can follow Fleet Feet Sports Chicago. Wow, I need another cup of coffee to say that for more information. And thank you both again so much, and thank you on a personal level for writing for Zell, and you know, and taking the time and helping me, you know, spread the word about what a great sport this is, because I love it as much as you do. So thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you. Please come to it. It's really fun.
Bye, you guys. Happy running.
You too. Thank you.